challenges when you only have 1 week to prepare for such a different offense, as you mentioned, that involves so many different options to run the ball?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you obviously do a lot in the offseason. First of all, you don't put it all in 1 week. I mean, we've done a lot of off-season study, off-season planning, off-week work, spring practice work, camp work, because as much carryover as we have every week between the offenses being pretty similar, there's no carryover this week. So that's the challenge. The look you get from your scout team is so different. So you have to have certain type of players on your team to give you a good picture. We'll challenge some of our players on the scout team to do some different roles this week to give us the speed of the game that's so hard to simulate. And they do such a good job of coming off the ball right at you that's part of the challenge.
Kirby, you talked about the seniors, given that deep into their careers there was the coaching switch. Just what was that time like, and how have they, I mean, did it take long for them to get on board with you, and what was that kind of transition like?
Well, the transition was great. They know that I have a lot of respect for Coach Richt, and so do they. They were recruited by Coach Richt and his staff, so they understand that. They know that things like this in this business happen, and they respected our staff and our program to the nth degree. A lot of them have supported everything we've been about. They were the glue that held this team together during some adverse times, and we appreciate them, and we got a chance to recognize them Saturday. So we just want them to go out on top, and that's what's important, is that those guys have been really helpful to this team this year, this season.
Kirby, talking about this rivalry, I guess you've been a part of it, the Georgia Tech rivalry specifically, 7 times before this year. What do you, first of all, what do you kind of remember about this rivalry, playing in it, coaching in it? And, what does it mean to win this game for this program? I mean, I know you've been a part of a couple losses, 5 wins. What does it kind of mean to come out on top here, last game of the season, state championship, basically?
Well, I think anytime you play a state rivalry, first of all, it's great for the state. There's a lot of people split down the line when it comes to this game. A lot of passion and energy goes into this game on both sides of it. We tell our kids all the time, you're remembered by what your senior class does and what your record is against Georgia Tech. So, I think in the same case as any rivalry, you've got to keep it within the grasp of your emotions. You play with emotion, but you got to play with controlled emotion. You got to make good decisions on the field. You got to prepare well. It's a different kind of week of preparation because it's Thanksgiving week. So it's so different a week than your traditional, got classes, come over, the schedule's different for both teams. So everything's a little bit different when you play Tech, when you add in the offense and the time in the week that we're not in classes. So it has been a great rivalry, and when I played in it and coached in it, it's always been heated and been a lot of close games.
Georgia Tech is one of the least penalized teams in the country this year. Just how much does that speak to how disciplined that team is, especially with the type of offense that they run?
Oh, extremely disciplined. I think they are smart in how they do things. They don't have a lot of penalties, offensively or defensively, or even on special teams. Again, that speaks to the discipline of organization, the decisions they make on the field, decisions their players make to not hurt themselves. They try really hard not to beat themselves, and they do a good job of that.
Kirby, in 1999, on game day, where were you, and what were your duties, and what do you remember the fumble and all that?
To be honest, I don't remember much about that game. Was that the Jasper game? Yeah. I think I was up in the box helping out, watching their offense, trying to help the defense out. I don't really remember the fumble much. I remember being in the paper a lot afterwards and years afterwards, but I don't remember much about where I was other than assisting the defensive coordinator and defensive coaches in the box with just eyes.
You kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but how much of the schedule does change with Thanksgiving and the classes, and how much do you try to keep the same as the normal routine?
Well, we try to keep it normal as we can. It's certainly not normal for the players because they're able to sleep in. It's a chance for us to get ahead academically. We got some guys coming up with some big finals and things, so we've got a window for academics each day. We've got a window of opportunity for players to come in and watch extra tape where we make reels for them, and they get to watch that tape and assist them with having good practices. A little better chance to watch the practice tape. A lot of times in the game, you can't watch every snap from practice because your meeting time is so small. We've got more meeting time to utilize watching tape, and we're gonna try to do that. Now, as the week goes on, it gets even more different because you got Thanksgiving Day. So we'll move practice up just a little bit, but not a lot, so that players can get some time with their family or friends here in town.
Kirby, as far as defending triple option, 2011 Georgia Southern game, and I know Charleston Southern last year was kind of a hybrid kind of thing. How applicable were those games? What did you learn about scheming up against this offense?
Well, I think the Georgia Southern game would be more applicable than the Charleston Southern. The Charleston Southern was a little different. It was not truly triple option. It was remotely triple option. It had a few plays in it. But when you look at it, it's tough to defend because it's tough to simulate. So when you start trying to simulate it with your players, sometimes the first thing they see live is the game. That's not the case when you play against these other offenses, because our offense can simulate what most other offenses do. Our scout team can simulate what most other offenses do. It's harder for us to simulate what Georgia Tech does, so we have to do a great job with the planning, the understanding. They give you a lot of different looks, and so preparation-wise, it's just tougher. I mean, it's a lot tougher when you start trying to scheme for it, because your players have to have really good discipline, really good eye control, and they got to tackle and block protect well.
Kirby, against Louisiana Lafayette, the defense gave up 5 plays of 25 yards or more. Against an offense like Georgia Tech, how important will it be for your guys to stay disciplined and limit the big plays?
Well, it's huge. I mean, they're looking for chunk plays. You want to make them drive it through. They do. They are very methodical. They manage their down and distances really well. And when you stay in, they stay ahead of the chains. It makes them tough to stop. So every time you try to give them a negative play or do something to put them behind the chains, you put yourself at risk. You know, they know it's a numbers game. They're really smart at what they do. You know, Paul has an immense amount of experience at what to combat's what. So it's not like you're going to go out there and outsmart the guy who's been doing that offense all his life and knows where the weaknesses are of each thing you do. You can expose them. The key is being sound, tackling, and not giving up big plays. And that's what our goal is to do.
Coach, after the game, you said on Eason's pass to Chubb for the touchdown, you said Chubb wasn't like the first, second, or maybe even third read. How have you seen Jacob kind of throughout the year improve on his progressions and reads and stuff like that?
I think he's just more confident. I mean, he can tell you at the beginning of the year what that first, second, third read was, but him being comfortable with figuring out where I go, when I go, and patience in the pocket, not to get happy feet, not to try to abort the pocket and stay in a clean pocket when it's there. He's grown in that regard. That's just a confidence factor, and I think the more confident he gets, he can get to that second, third option sometimes. And the more he does that, the better it makes our total unit. So.
Kirby, you always hear about discipline and responsibilities when you're playing the triple option. I think Davin even said Georgia Tech takes all instincts out of the game for defenders. But how much of the discipline falls on the defensive line? And is that a concern given that you've got so many freshmen playing there and that Trent Thompson said he was hurt for a lot of last year's game?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge. The discipline aspect certainly goes to the perimeter, the edges, the interior linebackers. Where on the defensive front, it's really about being able to strike, stay on your feet, understand what your job is. If you know what your job is on the front and you're athletic enough to execute your job, you can be successful. I do think that it's tougher when you've got guys who have not played against this type of offense. We got several defenders who have not played against this type of offense. When you look across the freshmen, even Davin and Zoe, last year's game, they only played a few snaps because of Jordan and Leonard. So it's key when you've got guys that have played this before that understand how fast it really comes. Where our freshmen probably won't know that unless we're able to simulate it.
With respect to the senior leaders that you mentioned on Saturday and even today, was there a particular moment or even a single guy that you feel like was maybe even louder than the others and it came at the right time?
You were talking about as far as the season, anytime throughout the season?
Yeah, just trying to keep like the morale high and all that.
You know, I don't know if one guy stuck out. I mean, after the Florida game, we had a meeting in here with the seniors, and I thought it was really good. And opened the floor up for those guys, and they were really good. They communicate well. They're not afraid to speak their mind, which I think is good in that setting. But they're also not locker room lawyers. You know, that they understand that they got a role to lead this team and to keep the demeanor right. And I thought that they all did. I mean, Rankin did, Quincy did, Reggie did, Cablano, Pike. There's a lot of guys in that group that played a lot of snaps, and they've helped communicate to the rest of the team what the message is.
Kirby, if you could cite one or two things that you feel like you've learned in your 11 games as head coach, what would those be?
You know, I don't know that I can do that for you. I mean, there's a lot of things that you learn. You learn more about yourself. You learn about your team. You learn about your staff. You learn about things you like, things you don't like. I can't specifically sit here and say, I learned this or I learned that. I mean, I certainly think that you grow because there's certain things I'm more comfortable with than others in game day management, in decisions about practice. But you do that throughout the year, so I can't say that it's what you say you've learned. It can be different next year because it's a different team. You know, this team's different than the next team will be. This team's got 11 seniors. This team's really young. I'd like to think we're going to eventually have a mature team that's got guys that have played a lot, and I think you treat each team differently. So I hate to say it, but I just don't know that I can point to one certain thing that sticks out.
Kirby, I want to ask about your injuries. Daquan Hawkins, Marco Natrez, and Isaiah. What are they looking like going into this week, and what do you anticipate for Saturday?
Well, I think I'll know more today. I can only tell you what we knew going into Saturday right now. You know, I mean, they're still getting treatment. They got treatment yesterday. They got treatment Saturday. They got treatment today, and we'll find out a lot more about them today. I think Isaiah's going to be good to go. He was really close. Daquan got to go in warm-ups last week and is much closer to going. And the same with Natrez. You know, he's been really close for the last couple of weeks. We hope he's ready, but I'll know a lot more about that after today.
Coach, you talked about how hard it can be for some of the players that haven't had to face this kind of offense before, but how valuable is having guys on the defensive staff like Coach Scherer and Coach Rocker who have, you know, obviously game plan against this type of offense and have been a part of these games before?
Yeah, I think that's important. Anytime you've got people with experience of playing against this type of offense, you know, certainly in the off season, we went and visited several people who face it for a living and face it, and then off week, same thing. You call around the country and talk to people about different ideas they have, things they can do well, and you've ultimately got to take your personnel and do what your personnel does well. And you see all kinds of schemes against these guys. I mean, you see a little bit of everything when you watch them. And a lot of people copycat. You know, a lot of people look at it and say, "Oh, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do this." But you got to do what you're comfortable with and play against it. And you know, having Coach Sharon Rocker have experienced it for really 2 and 3 years in some cases helps because you learn what you don't want to do, and you also learn what you think works. And I think that may have sometimes it changes in the game. You know, what they're having success with, you got to have something to answer it.
Kirby, you mentioned the 11 seniors. Obviously, there can be some underclassmen that this could be their last game as well. Do you have a sense of you know, guys that might be exploring that, and is it something you talk about with them, you know, during the course of the season?
Absolutely not. I think there's a time and a place for that. You talk about it, and the time and the place is after this game, before the ball game. We visit, and sit down, and talk to guys, and that's not the goal or the important thing to those players either. You know, I think the most important thing to them is doing it right for the seniors, and then there'll be a time and a place to visit that and gather information and educate them on the process, but also help them with information that they're not privy to right now so that they can make the best decision moving forward.
Kirby, another sort of big picture question. I know getting kind of your culture, your style, every coach when they come in, they want to be able to do that, sort of establish that. How important is that in your mind, and how successful do you think you've been almost a year in kind of putting your stamp on this program?
Well, I think that you never completely do that. I think you've got to continually change and merge based on your team. Like I talked about earlier, I certainly think that the practice intensity with which we go at things Monday through Friday is a big culture change that I'm trying to set. That, look, we're going to get work done these days, and we're going to work really hard, and you've got to trust that expending this energy, you're going to get to recover on Thursday afternoon, Friday, and Saturday before the games. Then as the season goes on, we try to cut back on that so that you're fresh for the game and you don't wear yourself out. But that's a big part, the discipline. You know, from a penalty standpoint, I think we can do a lot better when it comes to that. And I think just the overall culture of the program is what you make of, what you do to it, how you impact it. I think that when you have seniors that have done it one way for 4 years, some of them, and then you come into a new way, I think you find out how comfortable they are being uncomfortable, which I've stressed that's getting here is we're going to make you uncomfortable. Well, with those guys in the back of the room, those 20, 30 freshmen, they don't know any other way. So it becomes their culture and their only culture. And then as you get used to it and more guys get used to it, it becomes a majority deal. And they buy into it, they understand it, they understand why you're doing what you do. And that's the big part is that we try to impart knowledge on them is this is the way we're going to do it. So you accept it and you buy into it. And to be honest, most of them have.
Trent Thompson, I know a lot of defensive tackles don't get too much glory in this kind of system, but how good has he been?
Well, I think Trent has worked really hard. You know, he had a spell in the middle of the season there where we thought Julian was practicing better and playing a little better than him, so Julian was playing a little more. Trenton has gone back to work and outworked him, outcompeted him. He thought he played and practiced well the Auburn week. Actually started in the second half of Auburn, played well in that game. Then he practiced well last week and got to start last week. So, you know, every week in our group, in our units, there's competition in certain positions, and they know they've got to go out and earn that. So I think Trenton has really responded well to the adversity he's had, and he's had some games he's really played well, and he's got to continue to develop his technique, I would say, but he is an explosive, athletic defensive tackle, which is hard to find.
Coach, there's always those couple of games, you know, before Florida we talked about it. I think this is one also where, you know, people see the significance of it having, or the outcome having a great significance on how did they take the season as a whole, whether it was successful or not. What do you think about that notion of maybe 1 or 2 games really determining what people think about the outcome of a season, or do you almost see it as demeaning to the body of work you guys have put in before each game?
Yeah, I don't get into hypotheticals. I'll be honest with you, I really don't. To me, it's the next game. It's a large rivalry game. A lot of, especially our older fan base and the history of this rivalry is really important to a lot of people. It's really important to me. It's really important to this team. You can see it in the buzz they have for it. But as far as outcomes and hypotheticals, I'd rather not get into it.
Kirby, two-part question about your preparation for this game. Can you tell us about some of the guys that are running your scout team, because you mentioned them numerous times, and how they have to give you a good look? Yeah. And I know you have some athletes there, but I'm not sure who's playing what, if you wouldn't mind telling us. And the second part, you mentioned going in around the country, talking about the people who have faced this and calling around to see what works. Have you done that for every opponent this year, or is this more of a tech issue?
Well, we certainly have more experience with our other opponents, and our other opponents have a lot of common denominators and carryover, so we don't do it as much for other opponents. We certainly talk to other people about teams we know we're going to play that might have played them well or played them different than we do, but there's a lot of carryover in our conference of people playing the same way, so you don't see a lot of different. You might see different in a bowl game when a team from another conference plays one of your teams. But as far as what you said on Georgia Tech, you know, we've got a couple guys. Sam Bond's going to be helping us at quarterback. He's a good athlete. Caleb Roberson, another kid that's from Burke. It's a good athlete that gives us a good picture. Tim Hill, historically, has done a good job as well, being slot backs and also being the quarterback. It's hard to simulate their offensive line because they come off the ball really hard, but you know, we got 10 guys over there that give us a great picture, and we'll do a good job of that. And you know, a couple other guys, Ian McIntyre and Prather Hudson, have done a great job all year being backs, and they really fit this style of offense. They'll do a great job at perimeter blocking or being a fullback because they're really quick guys that can hit it up in there.
Last question.
Yeah, Kirby, you mentioned earlier about some of the young defenders seeing what Georgia Tech does in the first half, specifically dealing with cut blocks. I mean, what's the biggest challenge and what you will try to be teaching those guys as we kind of deal with that?
Well, number one, you got to have pad level low. You got to have your hands low. They got to do a great job of playing with pad level and low. They cannot get away with popping up like they do on some of the bigger linemen we face in our conference. Our guys can get up high with them sometimes, and you can't do that in this game. Just stay on your feet is critical. And you watch the teams that really play them well, they do a great job defending the cut block. And the cut block's really simple if you can just play the cut block. They all want to go make a play behind the cut block, and that's where they get in trouble. If they could just focus on the task at hand and then get their eyes converted and eyes transferred to the right thing, it's just easier said than done. Because I've been in those games where you talk about it all week, you try to simulate it, and you get in the game, you can't simulate what they do for a living. So it's really critical that we give them a good picture this week.